On this episode of the Common Constitutionalist podcast, I'll be discussing the Jihad Olympics. That's at least what the Clarion Project likes to call it. And its two major competitors, ISIS and al-Qaeda. Also, are the Obamas house hunting yet? Are they looking for a humble abode after he leaves office, assuming he ever does? I'll be discussing this, maybe a little more, who knows, today on the Common Constitutionalist.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcast from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment black helicopters.
Welcome to another edition of the Common Constitutionalist podcast. And first up, we have the kickoff of the Jihad Olympics. Now everybody knows that 2016 in Rio de Janeiro, the Summer Olympics are coming to Rio, and it's going to be a big sporting event, a big to-do down there, and lots of parties and stuff. But it seems the jihadists have their own Olympics, and they've already kicked it off. And unlike the regular summer or winter games, the jihadists have very few contests, as it were. They have very few events. There's not a lot of swimming going on. There's no pole vaulting or triathlon or no triathletes like Caitlyn Jenner not going to show up for a cameo at the Jihad Olympics. I wouldn't put it past he, she, or it to show up at the 2016 Summer Games as some sort of commemorative something or other. Actually, wasn't it 76 where Jenner won the triathlon? Or decathlon. I guess it was the decathlon that he won. It was 76, so that would make it what's the anniversary? That'd make it like the 40th anniversary of the decathlon. Maybe old Caitlyn will show up and get some sort of courage plaque or something. But I digress. Sorry about that, folks. Back to the Jihad Olympics, because that's frankly a little more important than the Summer Olympic Games in Rio. So like I said, the two major competitors are al-Qaeda and ISIS. And indeed, and believe you me, they are competitors. These people aren't going to be working together anytime soon, if ever. So, like I said, the main events of the contest are going to be murder, mayhem, rape, pillaging, hostage taking, and oh yeah, that's right, eradicating the history of the West by blowing up monuments and things like that. But mainly it'll be murder and mayhem, as they demonstrated in the Paris attacks by ISIS. And then some don't realize that it was not ISIS who attacked Mali. It was actually al-Qaeda who attacked Mali. And one of the main reasons why they attacked, there's a couple of reasons actually why they attacked Mali. One of the main reasons is they need to remain relevant, that they want to show the world that al-Qaeda hasn't gone the way of the dodo, so to speak, and ISIS has replaced them as the number one terrorist organization in the world. In fact, they have, and so al-Qaeda is desperately trying to get that moniker back, for want of a better term. But they also want to, much like our presidential candidates want to set themselves apart from one another, al-Qaeda and ISIS wish to set themselves, or certainly al-Qaeda wants to set themselves apart from ISIS. So if you noticed, when ISIS attacks, they attack ruthlessly, mercilessly, and they attack and kill everybody. They attack and kill Christians, they attack and kill Jews, and also they kill Muslims. If you're not Muslim enough, you will die. Period. Al-Qaeda, on the other hand, wants to set itself apart from ISIS by being more merciful to Muslims. and showing that they can have mercy on Muslims, and that they're only going to take the lives and property of the infidels, not Muslims. Whether you want to join al-Qaeda or not, more often than not, they will not take your life, whereas ISIS will just gun you down in the streets. They don't even give a rat's. Now, there's obviously a couple of, well, not obviously, but there's a couple of reasons why al-Qaeda has set itself apart for practical reasons, obviously. They want to be more merciful to Muslims, to show Muslims who want to maybe join a terrorist organization but don't want to kill their own kind. They have a choice. They can join ISIS and be completely ruthless to everybody, or they can now join the new and improved al-Qaeda, the regenerated al-Qaeda. At least they're trying anyway, I suppose. And they can join them and only kill the infidels and so on. So that's one of the reasons. And the other reason is that what al-Qaeda deems a success is the praise of Allah, or as the Clarion Project puts it, Allah's endorsement of what they've accomplished. That they believe that if they release Muslims, if they let the Muslims go, then they will have the praise and acclaim of Allah, because Allah says to kill the infidels and not the Muslims. That's what they believe, and so they think they'll find favor with Allah if they don't just wantonly kill all the Muslims also. And that's where they differ from ISIS, because ISIS doesn't care. And the Clarion Project actually has chronicles or letters, communiques from senior al-Qaeda officials, believing that the targeting of Muslims is actually frowned upon by Allah. And so they've decided what the Clarion Project calls to calibrate their massacres, so as to not harm as many or any Muslims in their terror attacks. And so this is the reason, as I stated, that the Clarion Project writes that al-Qaeda made sure to release hostages who could recite verses from the Quran in order to minimize Muslim casualties, regardless of whether those Muslim hostages support the group or not. And then they have al-Qaeda supporters that are online just waiting to immediately point this out to whoever wants to listen, that this is what sets al-Qaeda apart from ISIS. So the Paris attacks and the Mali attack, this is the kickoff. This is the benchmark, or the kickoff to the Jihad Olympics. I don't mean to make light of it, nor does the Clarion Project, but this is basically what it is the Olympic Games for these guys. And this was the opening ceremony. Unfortunately, just the opening ceremony. So they're not only going to attack the West, which is indeed what their plan is, both of them, but they're also going to attack each other, as a matter of fact. On the Golan Heights, al-Qaeda actually used a suicide bomb to blow up one of the ISIS, well, I don't know if it's a Wilayat, but it's a ISIS sympathizer group in the Golan Heights, and they blew this guy up, knowing full well who he was. In Bangladesh, al-Qaeda's trying to reconstitute open up an affiliate office. It sounds so lame when you put it that way, but that's basically what it is. In Bangladesh, and ISIS attacked and killed an Italian priest, not that it matters to al-Qaeda, in Bangladesh, not only that because the priest was a target to ISIS being a priest, but to send a message to al-Qaeda that ISIS has a presence there also. So there's a real competition going on, and that doesn't bode well for the rest of us if they're just going to continue to ramp up the attacks to one-up one another. And of course, they'll have medal ceremonies just like the regular Olympics with bronze, silver, and gold. And who do you think the gold medal is going to go to? The gold medal is going to go to the person who attacks most successfully, or the group that attacks most successfully. You got it, the United States. Europe will be the silver. Other places will be the bronze. I don't know how Israel is going to fit into this medal awarding ceremony, for want of a better term again. But you got to believe that the West those are the targets. Those are the medal rounds, and the gold medal is going to go for whoever can successfully attack America. Period. That's the way it's going to be. And it's, so we better watch out, because these guys I say it 1,000,000 times and say it 1,000,000 times more. These guys are literally deadly serious, and they're not going to stop unless we stop them. And it's going to be a difficult, time-consuming, long task to do so. So, again, it's important. See something, say something. Hear something, say something. It doesn't matter how inconsequential it is, but it may very well make the difference between somebody's life and death, a loss of property, loss of life, whatever. This may get ugly. And with two competing factions trying to up the ante every time an attack occurs, it could get mighty ugly, mighty fast.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
All right, welcome back to the second segment of the Common Constitutionalist podcast, where some in the Washington press are breathlessly wondering whether the Obamas are going to begin to be house hunting soon in Washington, D.C. First off, I guess there's really no doubt that this guy is going to stay in Washington, D.C. But do I think that they're going to rush out and start house hunting, looking for bargains or something like that? I'm just going to say I kind of doubt it. I think that instead of house hunting and looking for some bargain property, which they don't need to do, obviously, because they're worth millions of dollars, but even then, they're as cheap as the day is long, from what I understand. And so they'll just wait like they did last time and find a rich benefactor to give them some sort of bargain like they did with the Tony Rezko property in Chicago, if everybody remembers that one, where they received a rather steep discount on an expensive piece of property in Hyde Park or something outside of Chicago, something like that. But anyway, the smart money is that him and Michelle are going to remain in D.C., and it's like, I think Rush Limbaugh talked about this a couple years ago, about them growing roots in Washington, D.C., and he's, sure they're going to set up a library and social justice center in Hawaii. Maybe they'll set up a community agitator, race hustler office in Chicago, but their home base is going to be D.C. And everybody, why Washington, D.C.? Don't presidents normally leave Washington, D.C.? They go quietly into the night. They go back to their previous life, or they retire in relative seclusion, and they do some speeches every once in a while, and they keep their traps shut regarding current policy and the job of the current president. Isn't that what politicians, presidents usually do? Well, not this one. I guarantee you, not this one. Now, the Washington Business Journal, it's kind of like an inside the Beltway journal, writes that as former president, breathlessly writes, by the way, as a former president, Obama and his family will have more unique requirements than the average house hunting family. Really. Including stringent security and privacy issues. The writer goes on and says that he has to assume that they want to be relatively close to Sidwell. That's Sidwell Friends, the posh, hoity-toity private school that all the politicians who advocate for public schools send their children. What a laugh. And then he says, the writer says, parenthetically, here we go. After all, the proud parents will want to make sure that they can get to school in time for activities after a hard day's work as the former leader of the free world. Ugh. As the former leader from behind of the free world, he might add. I'm sure he wouldn't, but I'm going to. And sure, That's the reason why, because they don't want to take, Malia or whoever it is, out of Sidwell Friends and move her to some other posh hoity-toity school somewhere else. Yeah, that's the reason why. It has nothing to do with Obama wanting to remain in D.C. And as I said, Limbaugh handled this a couple of years ago when he said that they want to stay in town, or he wants to stay in town. Well, actually, I guess it's Michelle, too. Wants to stay in town to make sure that whatever he accomplishes is not unwound. And that is exactly right. Limbaugh says that, or said back in 2013, that if a Republican is elected in 2016 and say he wants to dismantle certain aspects of Obamacare, Obama's going to call the media, he's going to go on TV as though he's still president, and the media is going to treat him the way they're going to treat him that way also. I guarantee it. He's going to make noise, he's going to make trouble, he's going to do exactly what he was trained to do, which is not be president. He's going to do exactly what a community agitator will do, short of picketing in front of the White House. And I'll be honest with you, I wouldn't put it past him to do that either, or at least get some surrogates out there. He's going to do what Bill Clinton blew this all up, basically, when he didn't stay in town necessarily, but he was constantly on air, radio, TV, giving speeches, commenting on George W. Bush's performance in the White House, and that traditionally is a no-no. Heck, even until later in life, Jimmy Carter kept his big mouth shut. It won't be a day, maybe two tops, after a Republican is inaugurated, when Obama takes to the airwaves and starts agitating for his policies. Particularly if it's somebody like Cruz, and he's already promised that very shortly after his inauguration, he's going to start repealing every single one of Obama's executive actions, so to speak. And boy, I'll tell you, that ain't going to sit well with the king. It's not going to sit well with the one at all. He is going to be fit to be tied, and he's going to take to the media, and the media's all going to circle the wagons around him, and they're going to treat him like Limbaugh said. They're going to treat him like he still is president. Like if it's Cruz or somebody like that, a real conservative, that the new president will be an afterthought compared to Obama, at least for the Washington Post and the New York Times and those slugs. So he's going to stay in Washington, and imagine, just think about what all the shadowy, unelected bureaucrats that populate Washington, D.C. They're unelected, they're unaccountable, nobody knows who they are. There are thousands and thousands of these people, and I don't know whether a new president is legally even allowed to clean house. If it were me, I would just start cleaning house right away and can the whole lot of them and start anew. But I'm no constitutionalist. My guess is that anyone under the purview of the executive branch, a President Cruz or someone, could probably axe the most of them at least and get some real conservatives in there. But assuming that the bureaucrats are still in there when a Republican takes office, it would be so easy for Obama to develop or set up I'm just going to say a shadow government behind the scenes where they throw wrenches into Republican programs. They try to skirt rules and regulations. These bureaucrats know the ins and outs of the backroom deals and whatnot, and believe you me, they're going to be doing everything they can to curtail or throw wrenches in a President Cruz's programs. Or his wants, more to the point, his wants to get rid of Obama's executive actions and all the crap that he's put in, all the thousands and thousands of pages of regulation that he's added. So whoever the president's going to be, if it's going to be a Republican, even frankly if it's going to be an establishment Republican, that may be even worse for us if it's an establishment guy, because he's going to be afraid of his own shadow, and any time that Obama comes out and speaks up, he's going to be apologizing for the Republican Party and for his own policies, and he'll be scared to death to toss out or do anything negative against Obama's administration or anything that he's put in place. It's just going to be, unless we get the right guy in there, it's going to be a disaster. And even if we do get the right guy in there, like President Cruz, heaven help us if we don't, it's going to be a tough road, man. It's going to be a real slog getting through this, fighting not only Congress in most of this stuff, but fighting the media. So now you've got the media, you've got Congress, and you've got former President Obama that you have to do battle with. And boy, I'll tell you, if you don't have the mettle to do it, you'll fail miserably, absolutely miserably. And everything that happens is going to be blamed on you. And so we're going to need somebody with a real strong constitution that is used to fighting, like Ted Cruz. He's used to fighting. He's used to being an outcast. He's used to being blamed for everything, government shutdowns and everything. And if we don't get somebody like that in there that can fight Obama, ex-President Obama, then he's going to end up running the shadow government behind the scenes and running the show. And that's just the way it's going to happen. And I know all this sounds like so much conspiracy theory until it actually happens. But mark my words, Obama's going to at least attempt to do this. It won't be a full-blown coup, but I'll guarantee you he's going to have people in government fighting the current government. That's the way it's going to work. So I think that's about all I've got for today. And y'all have the rest of a good weekend. Happy almost December. And I'll talk to you next week.